Good morning. Welcome back to Open Med School. In the last session, we have discussed about the HPV virus, its complications like the development of warts, oral cancers, and the most important, cervical cancer. And the cervical cancer is a largely preventable condition, and the WHO has kept its target. By 2030, we should have a target of 90, 70, 90. This means 90% of the adolescents should have HPV vaccination, 70% should have cancer screening, and 90% should get of patients with carcinoma, cervix should have adequate treatment. But in our country, the statistics is only 0 to 1% of adolescents are vaccinated, and only 3% are getting screened, and only 10% are getting the standard treatment. In this setting, today we'll be discussing about the HPV vaccine, and this will be discussed by Dr. Nishi Roshini, Professor and Head of the Department of Obstetrics and Gynecology, Government Medical College, Thrissur.
So what is the solution? There is no treatment for this virus, but this is a very severe HPV disease infection is very severe to cause morbidity and mortality. So for protection of women, only available thing is HPV vaccine. It is a prophylactic vaccine. This is produced by recombinant DNA technology. Virus-like particles VLPs are produced. The VLPs have same outer L1 protein coat as HPV virus, but it contains no genetic material. So the vaccine will not produce any infection or cancer. But the vaccine, these VLPs will produce strong immune response. When we look into the scenario, how infection occurs after infecting with an HPV virus. So this is the cervical epithelium, and this is the HPV virus. When HPV virus infect the cervical epithelium, it will incorporate the genetic material into the cervical epithelium and causes changes that damage and cause future precancerous and cancerous lesions. But suppose the woman is vaccinated or the girl is vaccinated, the cervical epithelium will have antibodies, and when an exposure occurs to the HPV virus, these antibodies against L1 protein will coat the virus and prevent the virus from releasing its genetic material. Currently, the three types of vaccine available in India are Cervarix. It is a bivalent vaccine that contains the against serotypes 16 and 18. Gardasil contain that is protect against the HPV serotypes 6, 11, 16 and 18. The Gardasil 9 or Nonavalent protect against HPV types 6, 11, 16, 18, 31, 33, 45, 52 and 58. The dose is 0.5 ml. Is given IM in the deltoid. Ideal vaccination age is 11 to 12 years. You can start vaccinating from 9 years itself. Vaccination should be completed before 15 years. The target age is 9 to 14. Only 2 doses of the vaccine is needed. Anytime, need only 2 doses. The first dose 0 dose and the second dose 6 months later, or for all 3 vaccines. But if you are vaccinating after 15 years, at the age of 15 or above, you need 3 doses. 0 dose, then next dose 1 month after the first dose, the third dose 6 months after the first dose. In the case of Gardasil, both the quadrivalent and the nonavalent, 0, 2 and 6, that is after the first dose, the next dose is not 1 month, it is 2 months. And the third dose is similar to Cervarix, that is 6 months. So the dose schedule for bivalent Cervarix is 016 and for Gardasil it is 0 to 6. These three dose schedule is also needed for immunocompromised women, that is having HIV or on steroids, anti-cancer drugs, on immunosuppressants or any organ transplantation, or she is a sexual assault survivor. Irrespective of age, immunocompromised and sexual assault survivor requires 3 doses of vaccine. The protection by the bivalent vaccine is against 16 and 18. It protects against the anogenital cancers and precancerous lesion and also head and neck cancers. This doesn't have 6 and 11, so it will not protect against the warts or laryngeal papilloma. But HPV, the quadrivalent and nonavalent, that is Gardasil vaccine, will protect, both types will protect against both anogenital warts, laryngeal papillomas at the same time, anogenital cancers, precancerous lesion, and also head and neck cancers. Both this vaccine is same type of vaccine is recommended for both girls and boys, but some 10 countries they are giving for boys and girls, but in India we are mainly targeting the girls and not boys. The FOGSI, Federation of Obstetrics and Gynec Society of India, recommends that vaccine can be given from age 9 to 45. We know ideal is from 9 to 14 before they indulge in sexual activity. The 15 to 26 years you can give catch-up vaccination. Catch-up vaccination means even if they had exposure to uh, previously to HPV serotypes by sexual intercourse, protection is achieved against other serotypes the girl or woman has not exposed to, but the efficiency will be less. The before 14 years, before indulging in sexual activity, it offers nearly 97% effective, but after 15 years or at or above 15 years, nearly 50% protection. And when you give vaccination, they should be counseled. So vaccine is best at 11 to 12 years, that is when she is in 7th or 8th standard. It can start at 9 years when she is in 5th standard. Why? Because the pre-teens have the highest immune response to HPV vaccine than older teens, and they also have a large transformation zone where the HPV virus harbor. So the immune response will be very high and good in these preteens, and ensure that immunization is completed prior to potential exposure. Also, the other advantage is what is prohibitive is the cost. That is why it is not being so popular. A single dose of vaccine, Cervarix and Gardasil quadrivalent costs 3,000 rupees. That two dose means nearly around 6,000 rupees. For Gardasil 9, the single dose is 10,000. Two dose means 20,000. So if you vaccinate before 15 years, you need only 2 doses. Otherwise, you need 3 doses. The cost further hikes. The vaccine is stored at 2 to 8 degree centigrade. After a third dose schedule, it is found that they are highly immunogenic and the immune response is seen within 1 month of last dose. And the highest immune response between 9 to 15 years to vaccinate these at this target the vaccination in this age group. The vaccine can be administered with other vaccines as COVID-19 vaccine. Both non-live and live vaccines can be used, but ensure that you use separate syringe and different injection sites. The side effects are seen similar to other vaccination. Local reactions, pain, erythema and swelling. Systemic reactions are mild and self-limiting, include pyrexia, headache, dizziness, myalgia, arthralgia, and gastrointestinal symptoms, and rarely syncope. So vaccinate them in the sitting position and you observe for 15 minutes. Verbal consent is sufficient. Contraindications to vaccine are hypersensitivity to any vaccine component, including yeast, because this vaccine is produced in the yeast. Moderate or severe acute illness with or without fever is also a contraindication. But you can vaccination need to be deferred until the condition improves. So vaccinate them when the condition improves. Pregnancy is also a contraindication. So prior to vaccination, no need of doing a pregnancy test similar to COVID-19 vaccine. Also no need for any prior cervical cancer screening reports. Suppose after vaccination the girl identifies to be positive for pregnancy test, need not be panicked because no adverse events are reported, identified so far, and no need for any termination of pregnancy. After delivery, during lactation, she can resume the continuation of vaccination schedule, and lactation is not a contraindication for vaccination. Cervical cancer is preventable. The primary prevention, as we have seen now, is by vaccine. Also combining the usage of condoms if you are having sexual intercourse, and also this circumcision for males will help in additionally in as a primary prevention source. Secondary prevention is by cervical cancer screening. This vaccine is very safe and effective. Lifelong protection is offered. No need for any boosters, and it protects against vulval and vaginal and cervical cancer and 99% of genital warts. It is not a therapeutic vaccine. So you must continue cervical cancer screening as per guidelines. Very important that all the three vaccines are ideally administered before the onset of sexual activity. That is before first exposure to HPV vaccine infection. The Gavi of WHO highlights on the high impact vaccine that 20 deaths are averted per 1,000 vaccinated. It's a good news that Cervavac is the India's first indigenously developed vaccine. It will be available at the cost of 200 to 400 per dose, and it is developed by the Serum Institute of India and was approved by the Drug Controller General of India in July 2022. The bivalent vaccine Cervarix is produced by the Glaxo, and Gardasil, Quadrivalent, and Nonavalent are produced by Merck. Because the cost is a prohibitive factor, the WHO looked up into the effectiveness of a single dose, and the SAGE has found that for the past years, the single dose schedule provides comparable efficiency to 2 or 3 dose regimens. That a single dose is as effective. Also, it is a study in Kenya found that a single dose is 97% effective. So WHO in future may come up with newer guidelines for vaccination. The take-home message is vaccination before indulging in sexual activity before 15 years, and continue cervical cancer screening to protect against cervical precancerous and cancerous lesions.